Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Clayton and James Show, where I continue to do the intro because Clayton said he's too scarred from how people reacted to his intros. My name is James.
And my name is Clayton. And yeah, no, we were having a discussion around the original one. So fair enough. The beatboxing one was terrible. Take that on the chin. I don't even think I could call that beatboxing. Um, the others, I don't think they were that bad.
I
And
think, I think we're over it, Clay. We're just letting me do it now, aren't we?
yeah, I think we've got to run with this one now.
Okay. On the Clayton and James Show this week, we're going to talk about England because everyone's withdrawing from international duty. And I'm not sure that I blame them. We're going to discuss what's happening with the Three Lions. On this day at the end, Clates featuring the most different goal scorers, excluding own goals in a Premier League game in history. On this day, not on this day, on the Euro Focus, we're going to be covering Feyenoord. We're also going to have a look at Clayton's FPL teams. Had a couple of very good weeks following his game week 10 dead space wild card, but it doesn't look too bad. But before that, we will try not to be racist like David Coote might have been. If these videos are real, many of you will have seen some videos of referee David Coote circling on social media where he calls Jurgen Klopp the C word. If you don't
That
know what the C
includes
word
his
is,
nationality before it.
just put the C word into Google. We're not going to use it here. And then doubles down by calling him a German C word. Clayton, firstly, do you think the video's real?
Yeah, I do. Having seen it, I do because I remember how I found out about it was you and I were doing our patron Q&A, right? And that was one
Hmm.
of the questions, and I hadn't been on Twitter that afternoon, so hadn't seen it. And the way you were describing it, my first instinct was, oh, is that one of those kind of deep fake AI things? And then as soon as I saw it, no, that looks real. Yeah, so to the actual question, yeah, I think that's real.
What should happen to him?
I think what they've done so far, right? Like they've kind of immediately suspended him and then investigating whether it's real and take it from there. What about you?
Yeah, that's the situation at the moment, which is obviously what the PGMOL had to do immediately. There is some speculation that they knew about this from years ago. We can't confirm that or deny that, but there is speculation. There will obviously be a lot of speculation circling things like this at the moment. It is suspicious the amount of time that he didn't referee Liverpool for. As a few people have pointed out since then, take him out the firing line. But I don't know if referees can have requests. Like if you're in the workplace, you're like, oh, I want Friday off, or what? I don't know if referees can. I don't want to referee Liverpool. I don't know if that can be a thing or not.
I don't know.
Wouldn't
I
have a
I
clue.
doubt it. I doubt it. I don't think they would be able to put requests in, but I think if there's certain things in terms of your, because they have to register the club they support, right? So I think there's something geographically on that where they will get told you can't referee these teams. But in terms of requests, I highly doubt it.
The fact that he used German before the expletive for me makes this 10 times worse. I don't know about you, Clates, but I'm sure there's plenty of people listening and watching this who think their boss is a wanker. But it doesn't stop them going to work and doing their best job, right?
Hmm.
So the fact that he thinks this person, and obviously Klopp's not his boss, right? It's actually he's an official. It's not someone he even works with. The fact that he thinks someone's an arsehole, I have too much problem with that. It's the fact that he then went down the line of using it derogatory by actually referring to his nationality. That's for me. I can't see how he ever referees again, personally.
Yeah, if it's true and that's the kind of that video is real, which I'm 99.9% sure it is, then yeah, I agree. Like he shouldn't be anywhere near it. And yeah, I think that's a really good point you make. Yeah, we've all got opinions on people and this and that, but as soon as you kind of bring the nationality into it, and I think for me, it's if it's real again, how stupid is he knowing the kind of platform he's in? I think there's one thing where,
He's
yeah,
clearly off his head, isn't he?
yeah, massively.
I mean, allegedly, that's my opinion. Looking at the video, that he's not in a sober state.
No,
He's
not
on
at all. He looked
something. It
well
might
off
just
it.
be booze, but he's on something.
Yeah, but just like even if I don't know who that guy was with him, but like even if it's a mate, if someone's recording you, just knowing the environment you operate in and the amount of eyes that are on you, like that, it's stupid. Like as I know he's off his tits. Well, that's what it looks like. But flip it now. How stupid you have to be to do that.
Yeah, that's incredibly naive. They think you have a certain responsibility in a position like that in terms of the way you're gonna be perceived. So I'm sure even within the referees group, I'm sure they probably don't all like each other.
Oh, absolutely.
But
They're
then
humans.
that doesn't exactly that's not going to impact on how he does his job. And by the way, I don't think any of this impacts in the sense of, oh, David Coote couldn't manage Liverpool fairly, right? David Coote refereed the Liverpool game literally this weekend gone. So the timing seems quite ironic. It's probably better that Liverpool won at the weekend rather than they lost and
Can you
he give Villa
imagine?
a dodgy penalty or something. Would look absolutely horrendous right now. That's not happened. I don't believe any of that. He doesn't like Jurgen Klopp. He would referee Liverpool without partiality.
So the
I
one thing
don't
I
believe that he would still referee the game fairly. I say this all the time. I won't have this about that they're not
consciously,
fair and proper.
the only thing I'll challenge, because I agree with you on a conscious level, we all have subconscious biases and influences. And this
Of
is why,
course,
for me, there's like a wider conversation here on like, why is there such a lack of diversity in where all the referees are recruited from? I don't know what
there's
the
so many
statistic.
from the northwest. Even is
Exactly, and
yeah.
that for me is the question because then when you take into account like we're all human, we all have these subconscious beliefs that they're formed in like your childhood and stuff. You can't really control or even be aware of some of them. Like the only way you can kind of eradicate that and get a general level of fairness is by having a diverse pool of referees, and that for me is more the question I've been trying to ask for years. Like, why is it that it seems the majority of them are from the Northwest? Like, I don't understand that. And I hope this is now. I mean, we talk about the Premier League being like the best league in the world, the best product, this, that. Like, why don't we have the best referees? Like, why is there only a kind of traditional, it's a white male from the Northwest? Why is there a lack of diversity? I don't really get that. So I hope yeah, he kind of goes through the whatever the right protocols are, gets suspended, this, that, but then they use it as an excuse to try and kind of, yeah, revise how they recruit referees, I guess.
Would you like to see him go global with it, as
Pardon?
in overseas referee?
Yeah, why not? As in bring refs from outside of the Premier
Yeah,
League
bring the
into.
best ref from Italy, Spain, wherever.
Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, I don't know if that would work. Like, I don't know how their contracts are done and stuff, but on principle, yeah, I don't see why
Well,
not.
some of our refs, have gone and refereed in like Dubai and stuff, haven't they? Which
Oh,
has
that's another
caused
conversation.
suspicion. Right? I mean, there's, to go back in terms of your subconscious bias, the owners of Manchester City pay certain referees big sum of money to referee a game in the UAE. What does that mean when they come back? Maybe there is a subconscious there on that. Well, maybe I'm not going to get that sum of money next time I referee a game in the UAE. So I don't know if there's anything by law that stops overseas referees refereeing here. Jared Gillett is not English.
Yeah, and this is why I'm saying it's not everyone, right? But like I'd love to see the statistical breakdown. I reckon a good above 50, 60% are kind of from that northwest region, I'd say.
There's a lot, yeah. I think a
Yeah.
lot of them support Man United, apparently, as well. Just saying. But I think we should be said here. I don't think I've not seen anything. People can come up with their conspiracy. I've not seen anything where you say David Coote has stitched up Liverpool here or anything like
Well,
that.
there's been a few incidents that I've seen circulating which are definitely controversial, but I think in my opinion you'd find them in kind of every
If
game
you want to
because
dig for that, you'll find
you'll
that.
find it.
Yeah, people aren't going to highlight the ones where he gave Liverpool the penalty and stuff like that, probably, right? So I think I understand from a human level he doesn't like someone. Have I ever said that word about someone, i.e., this, that, and the other? Yeah, sure, we probably all have, but
I
not
think we
at
said it about each other last week.
well, it's not just last week, like um, to be in a position like that. It's like me and Nico have discussed this before about like if you're a school teacher, you're in a position of responsibility where like you don't get given the fair crack in a way like another person in another job does, and that's where referees are because we hold them to a
A standard.
principle idea that they've got to be fair and honest and all the time. Even like just seeing a referee swear is like a bit weird.
Yeah.
It feels weird. We'd like seeing your head teacher swear or something like that, right? So for me, the fact you don't like Jurgen Klopp, I have a problem with plenty of people won't like Jurgen Klopp, right? It's the doubling down on it and then calling him German that I don't see how he can referee again.
Yep. Agree.
It's a mistake. It's a dumb mistake. Like, I don't think he's racist against Germans, for example. That's just what he said. I don't think there's a comeback from it because as soon as he goes and referees again, the scrutiny is just off the scale. It's also a massive letdown to his colleagues that that's come out because the conspiracy theorists have got something now, aren't they? Oh, again, yeah, refereeing. And I won't have it. I'm very consistent about that. I think they just do the job to the best of their ability. And a lot of them don't do it very well, we've covered.
Yep.
But I don't think anybody's trying to be a bad referee. I don't think any referee in this country is trying to be anything but honest and fair. Yes, subconscious biases, but that even includes, oh, it's in front of the cop, I might give the penalty.
Of course.
We've
Yeah.
all seen that sort of thing, right? Um, so yeah, I just think it's a really unfortunate case of events, and they'll have to sack him, I think.
Yep. Big time. It's a good point you make on kind of letting your colleagues down there as well, though, because yeah, they're already up against it, and yeah, their job's going to be made
They've
tougher now.
got they've almost got to be seen to do something
In what sense?
with Coote.
Oh,
We
yeah.
can't. What can you do? Just brush it. Obviously, they've suspended him, but it's almost like people almost demanding it. I think they've
Yeah, I
probably
think
got
it.
to.
Yeah, the concerning thing is, when you said there's like reports circulating that they were aware of it. So is it like if it didn't
It's just
come?
a rumor, isn't it?
Oh,
But
okay, right. Yeah, no, because I hadn't seen that. So okay, fair enough. Was that just like a social media rumor?
oh, you see lots on social media. Yeah.
Fair. Okay, not worth
Um,
talking about then.
social media, he's gone in and told them it's AI, and so yeah, it's probably where you and I have gone with that. I'm 99% sure that's definitely him. Um, he didn't come across great, did he? I mean, clearly he's
No.
not in 100% condition, but he didn't come across great in that at all. It's very uncomfortable viewing,
Yep.
and I think unfortunately we probably won't see him referee in the Premier League again. Let's move on to England. So I see lots of people up in arms this week with some of the withdrawals from the England squad. There have been 8 in total. Those are Trent Alexander-Arnold, Levi Colwill, Phil Foden, Jack Grealish, Cole Palmer, Aaron Ramsdale, Declan Rice, and Bukayo Saka. Trent Alexander-Arnold, we know, felt his hamstring at the weekend. Since doing Monday's podcast, it does sound like he does have a possibility of being involved in game week 12. But I think we can see that he went off injured early for
He
Liverpool at the
literally
weekend.
left the game, as in went off the pitch.
Correct.
Yeah.
Jack Grealish, I don't know where he was called up.
No, and Pep said as much as well. Like
He hasn't played for
yeah,
Manchester City. Cole Palmer, we do know, went into Sunday's game with Arsenal with a problem. Well, I think it's fairly clear that he didn't train the majority of last week. Aaron Ramsdale, we know, has broken his finger. Fair enough. Declan Rice, we're pretty confident has a broken toe and played with it at the weekend. I get people saying, he played for Arsenal, he won't play for England. He is injured. Bukayo Saka also clearly signalled himself at the weekend that he had a problem. Levi Colwell, Phil Foden are the two that we didn't see anything visually or have not had the kind of the clear reporting on it of why they're out. I would suggest in Levi Colwell's case, Chelsea have a lot of football matches. He's their only good left-footed centre back. I'm sure you don't really want him there. Phil Foden's also had injury issues this season, has gone from playing hardly at all to playing a lot very quickly. 7 of those 8 players come from Liverpool, Manchester City, Chelsea, and Arsenal, what many people believe will be the top 4 this season. They're obviously all involved in European competition. Aaron Ramsdale at Southampton is the anomaly there. Reaction.
Uh, I don't care, but I'm not the most patriotic person, so I think you're probably asking the wrong person. But I
All
think
right.
you
Well,
you
if you
broke
could
it.
leave this Zoom studio now and I could get someone else in who's a bit more patriotic, that'd be good.
Um, you've broken it down already, to be honest. Like Trent went off injured. Rice, like playing with the broken toe. Like I don't know if you felt the same, but I thought he looked well off it anyway. Like he didn't look fit. So
I said to you before the game that I think that we'd learned from the Alexander Isak case that he's not going to be at his best if he plays with
yeah.
this.
So yeah, he didn't look good. Saka went off. And then yeah, the Grealish one again covered. Don't know why he was picked in the first place. Palmer, like I'm not sure if he actually had a knock going into the game or if that was kind of mind games, but it's the Colwell and Foden ones. My reaction is that the players that actually went off injured, like they went off injured. Like I don't know what the talking point is there. Colwell and Foden, if that's just like I know you're saying about Foden playing a lot of games, like if that's just fatigue, I'm not sure on that. Yeah, I've got less time for like fatigue and stuff than like they
I
actually
don't know
went off
what's
injured.
reported as Foden's injury or Levi
Oh,
Colwell's, to be
okay.
honest. I've not done the digging on it because, to be honest, like you, I don't care enough about it. I
Yeah.
do not blame these players whatsoever for not wanting to play these football matches, considering what they've got to do over the next 3 or 4 months.
See, neither do I, but this is where I just want people to be consistent because I do feel like you get uproar when it's certain players from certain clubs, and then when it's other players from other clubs, it's like, eh. So I'm the same. I could not give a shit, but I just want consistency from other people, to be honest.
Called up in their place, Jared Bowen, Tino Livramento. That's good cover right and left back. Jared Branthwaite of Everton, and James Trafford has been called up. So we really are short of goalkeepers. Morgan Rogers also, who was someone I think you
Yeah,
and I
that's a nice
both
one.
earmarked and went, we kind of want him in the squad anyway. So look, fine. And I know there's kind of this patriotic element to like these guys should be proud to play for England. I'm pretty sure they all are. But you cannot blame them with what the fixture schedule looks like over the next 3, 4 months that they don't want to play poxy Nations League games. And what it boils down to is this, and I know a lot of people will care. I don't give a shit. I want England to win on Thursday. I want England to win on Sunday. But if they don't, I don't care.
Yeah.
There feels like no major consequence to me. If we do not win that group, and we basically probably have to win both games, obviously we definitely need to win in Greece on Thursday to win that group, then there is a small chance that we might get a slightly tougher World Cup qualifying group. 16 European nations will qualify for the next World Cup. Right. If we don't qualify, we're never going to win the tournament anyway. Thomas Tuchel's remit when he takes over will be to win the tournament. Right. So if we can't be one of 16 nations that qualifies, we're drunk. I don't care who we get in qualifying.
Yeah,
Because even if we do get, and by the way, we could be a top seed and we might still end up with like, there is a small chance that I think like a France could be a pot two or something like that. And if we play that and we finish second in the group, then we've got to go in a playoff. Right. And whoever we play in the playoff, we're still drunk if we don't get through. And we don't deserve nothing if that's the case.
yeah, that's the thing. I don't think people. I think the people that are outraged don't go along the thought process you just went. I don't think they're thinking that far ahead in terms of the knock-on impact. I think it's purely from the perspective of, and this is just an assumption, they should be proud to play for their country. That's where I think people get annoyed at. But me, I don't care.
But James, we need to get back into League A of the Nations League so we can have more competitive opponents. Right. Well, at worst case here, we're highly likely to finish second in the group. And under that circumstance, we have a promotion/relegation playoff with a team that finished third in one of the League A groups. So we still could get promoted. Nations League football is better than friendlies.
Yeah, definitely. But it's still.
Otherwise, who cares? What are we going to do if we get promoted back and we win the Nations League in 2026? What are we doing? We open top buses and stuff like that. We're not, are we?
No, no way. But you're right. It's definitely better than friendlies. But yeah, I think it's a case of like you kind of touched on it with Colwill and how many games Chelsea have, right? And I mean, it's the same with some of the other clubs. But I think it's just a case of players prioritizing. I think it's as simple as that. And some people won't like hearing that. On Colwill, though, as I've said that out loud, don't Chelsea split their squads? It seems that's a separate thing. But
Yeah, but there is also there's a very heavy reliance, I think, on him at the moment. And like I
how
said,
does
it's
he play both?
in terms of no, they'll play that Badia Shield in the Conference League, but I don't think they want to play Badia Shield in the Premier League game.
No.
That's where they're at the moment. So I think Colwell particularly, I think say like with Wesley Fofana, when Chelsea get that congested period of Premier League fixtures where there's like the midweek fixture and stuff, there's a fair chance that say like a Fofana doesn't play at Southampton in a midweek fixture and they take a chance, for example. Colwell, I think, would play all of it. So I'm saying Colwell, I think it's 2 yellow cards from a suspension. So at some point he might miss a game as well.
Do you think there's anything in the fact that obviously Carsley's still taking charge, right? Do you think there's anything in that where if this was Tuchel's first camp, if players weren't necessarily injured, they would try and force themselves to be there to kind of make that first impression and
Well, I think the point here is yes, but a lot of these players wouldn't be in the squad anyway because they are legitimately injured. And they
yeah, no,
might all be legitimately injured
I'm talking
for
about
what I
the
know.
unknowns of I guess Colwill, Palmer, Foden in that category.
Would people have made more of an effort, maybe? Like you and I don't really know, for example, right now if Bukayo Saka is injured or not.
No.
but he
But
certainly signalled that he needed to come off on Sunday.
he
But
got subbed.
it might have been one he's had a tight hamstring and he possibly could have turned up. It might be that he's got a big problem. He's out for a month. I have no idea. So maybe under certain circumstances, players would have pushed a little bit more. Yes, if Thomas Tuchel was in charge, that's also caused a little bit of an anger from many people in the sense that he's not in charge yet. He obviously takes over on January the 1st.
You've got
What's he
some
going to?
thoughts on that, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I think first thing, what's he going to do on January 1st? Is he just suddenly going to appear in the stands at Brentford when Brentford play Arsenal because that's the only game on January 1st? I'm working. Like, because New Year's Day is a bank holiday, so most people aren't working, right? Is he gonna just be at Brentford? I suspect he's probably fucking got to be actually, and make himself visible from day one. I suspect that him not doing now, and people could even read into that. We don't care about the Nations League either. So, but I imagine it's probably something contractual with Bayern Munich,
Yeah, I thought the exact same as well.
where it's probably they've parted ways. If you take a job before the end of this calendar year, we're not going to pay you compensation of this, that, and the other, or another. If you go for another job, they've got to give us compensation, for example. It's probably something like that. And that's, for January the 1st specifically, it's not like he's going, yeah, February the 12th or something ahead of like the next internationals next year. January the 1st says to me, there's probably something in the clause where he probably, I don't want to say not allowed, but it was probably going to cost someone a lot of money if he did these two Nations League games. And the FA have probably gone, what I think, this doesn't matter that much.
Yeah, I've read it the exact
The only
same.
thing the FA will truly care about is they want England to get promoted, which England can still do if they don't win these two games. Is obviously if they're in League A, more high profile opponents probably means more bums on seats at Wembley, probably means they can charge higher ticket prices, stuff like that. That's probably what the FA give a shit about under this
Probably.
circumstance. So I don't care. To be motivated for this, for these England games, is just such an irrelevance to me. I will watch both games. I hope England win. If England score a 95th minute winner in Grace,
Are
barely a
we going to
murmur
see
is
you
going to
topless running around, James?
barely a murmur is going to come out of my mouth. It's just irrelevant.
Yep.
I'm afraid to say. And I do not blame players for not wanting to play these football matches. It's not just an England problem, by the way. You can look around nations across Europe where a lot of players are pulling out of national team squads. The intensity now of this Champions League with more high profile fixtures. Arsenal just played Inter Milan. Liverpool just played Leverkusen. Liverpool about to play Real Madrid. The sort of fixtures you might not ordinarily have in the Champions League group. Plus, there is more jeopardy on it in terms of you might have two extra games in February. There are certain clubs, you don't have to look down that table, like Paris Saint-Germain, for example, are in real danger of finishing in the bottom 12 and getting eliminated with the fixtures that I think they go to Bayern Munich next or something, Paris Saint-Germain. They're in massive trouble.
Yep.
So that's not quite the case for the English clubs, but I bet for the four English clubs in that, there's definitely a pressure to try and avoid those extra two games in February.
Yeah,
You've got
100%.
several of those teams mentioned have got League Cup quarterfinals. One who doesn't, Chelsea, have a Conference League game that midweek of the League Cup quarterfinals. Yeah, I do not blame footballers for not wanting to play Nations League football. Personally, I've spoken about this loads of times. I would scrap international football in the middle of the season. We would finish earlier. So Champions League final would be like mid-May. We'd probably have a proper break where no one plays football for 10 days in like any country in January or something like that. We put a 2-week break between third and fourth round FA Cup. So you could even give players who don't want to play in those fixtures like a month off. Premier League season finishes like first weekend of May, Champions League final mid-May. And then at the end of the season, you have a month.
Someone needs to clip
and
that.
shit like that.
Clip that, send that to the FA, send that to UEFA,
I get
send
it.
it to FIFA.
I get it, right? You and I, we have to understand this, are in a position where we support two big clubs who play in European competition, etc. So we have biases. If you support a team in League Two who is shit and is 17th in the table, you are probably massively looking forward to watching England.
Yeah, that's true.
I get it. It's just two sides to the story. But I think international football is at a point here where so many people don't care about it. I care about it for a month every 2 years.
Yeah, me too. Exactly the same.
But if the season finished in mid-May and you knew at the end of the season, right, we've got England for a month now, all the qualifiers in like one hit, Fine. That's an England period,
That'll
and I
be
look
quite
forward to
fun.
that.
Yeah, that sounds quite fun.
It does mean that if you had a player that was injured over that month, they're not going to play for England for like over a year. Like I get it. There's plenty of downsides and stuff like that. But international football for any of us that support clubs who play in European competition is just a hindrance to life.
I re- fucking hell. I
I'm
reckon
bored. I don't want to watch this shit this week. I need to recover from Sunday's crap that I watched.
I do think with some of the younger players, I said there I'm not as patriotic as other people are. I don't think some of these players are. I think a lot of them, especially the younger generation coming through, like you compare it to the previous England generation and the generation before that. If you could put it on a chart in terms of patriotism, I think it's declining. Couldn't tell you why. Just an assumption. I don't know if you'd agree with that.
And I think Gareth, to go back to Gareth Southgate, got a lot out of pride in terms of playing for England again. This at the moment, the manager's not in charge. It's Nations League games. I get it. I get it. If
Yeah.
England lose in Greece Thursday night, what's the worst thing that happens?
Uh, I couldn't tell you what the worst thing is. There'll be a little bit of a rumble, but that's it.
It's
Like
just not a
the
big
world's
deal.
not going to end. Yeah, it's not a
No,
big deal.
it's not a big deal. And yet, when the game starts, we'll be so critical of how they play, whether they win, lose, or draw. We'll be so critical. There's so much focus on England because there's nothing else to watch at that point other than England, unless you're obviously from another nation. So there's so much focus on everything, every player individually. He's shit, he's shit, he's shit. Why is he in the squad? Don't like him, don't like the tactics, rare, rare, rare. And it don't matter.
Yeah, this is like a free hit, isn't it? Until Tuchel comes in.
I hope England go to Athens and win. I hope England win the group. I hope England get automatic promotion. But to be using the excuse of if we finish second, we might have a more difficult World Cup qualifying. I'm sorry, it's not ignorance. There are 16 qualifying places. If England or any other kind of the six, seven major European nations do not qualify for a World Cup or a European Championship now, with the amount of teams that qualify, they've got to be drunk. They have to be. So
Yep.
we'll get there because we've got too much quality. Whoever fucking plays. And by the way, despite all these pullouts, and despite the fact Greece thoroughly deserve to beat England at Wembley, with what we've got, we should have enough to go to Athens and win.
Yep. Well said.
Uh, Case, you wild carded
Yes,
in game
sir.
week 10.
I
How's it gone?
did. It's gone all right, mate. It has gone all right. So, I going into that game week, I was 671k in the world. I'm now 182k in the world, mate. So,
Whoop, whoop.
yeah, back to back green arrows. Yeah, flying. Very happy with how it's gone. Uh, you and I were umming and ahhing, debating whether it was right for my team and to go then or kind of hold until now, right? Like the kind of game week 12. And I just got to a point where, sure, could I have got the ideal wild card? Probably not, but my team was on its last leg. Like, I just had so many flags, so many like suboptimal picks. And you know, when it just feels right for you. The irony is, as soon as I hit the wild card, I actually regretted it. But
Yeah, well done for admitting that,
yeah,
Princess.
I did
Not
regret
regretting
it.
it now, though, are you?
No, not at all. I think that's the
It's
thing. It
because it's gone
was,
well. So you're
of
biased,
course.
affected by the fact you've had positivity.
Of course, outcome bias is there, mate. But I do think though, looking at my team, if I went back to game week 9, like it was shit. Like it just, yeah, there were 4 or 5 flags. There were 2 free players that were just suboptimal. So yeah, it's gone well. Yeah, I'm obviously happy
You've
with
got
my
three
rank.
players who pulled out the England squad, so you're in massive trouble now, aren't you?
Well, yeah, I think they'll be fine though. The three. Like I said,
Are you
I don't.
suggesting they don't want to play for England, Clay?
Yes, I am. Because I would be the exact fucking same. That's a joke. I would absolutely love to play for England. But if it was Arsenal instead, I know where I'd be. Yeah, I'm happy with how my team's set up. I think the things I have to be aware of is like I don't have any Arsenal defensive coverage and kind of conscious of what the game week 12 wildcarders will be going with. That's something that could hurt me. Others, like I think a lot of people will be looking at Bruno Fernandes. I've got Garnacho in there, who I think is a little bit more of a headache than I thought he'd be when I put him in. Um, what else do I need to be aware of? I mean, you
But I
tell
think
me.
with the rest of the midfield you went for, that was kind of like a punt slot though. So I don't mind it. Why don't you, for the benefit of those on the audio, just read out your bus team for this week.
Sure. So Fabianski in goal, Colwill, Dalot, Anderson from Fulham, captain Mo Salah, Saka, Bumo, Palmer, Raul Jimenez, Cunha, and Solanke, and then on the bench, Areola, Garnacho, Ait Nori, and Pedro Porro. So I've got two frees. As it stands, I'm looking to go through with another one. I can't.
Really?
Fucking hell, what's so bad about it? Solanke, I guess. Or
I don't think you've landed too badly.
I agree, mate.
Um, I think the West Ham goalkeepers are gonna. Well done. You got 9 points. So did I this week. Yeah, that ain't gonna happen often, babe. I'm telling you.
Nah, I know. But they will get one or two clean sheets in the
Their
next
next two
runs.
games are rough against Newcastle and Arsenal. Then, admittedly, they have a group of five fixtures that aren't too bad, but includes games like Brighton and Bournemouth. I just can't see them keeping clean sheets. And then they have a rougher period again. You might want to look at that further down the line.
Yeah, possibly.
You might want to consider making a move now from something like Areola to Verbruggen,
How much is Verbruggen?
possibly.
How much is he?
Verbruggen's 4-5.
4.5. Yeah.
It's a suggestion at a similar value to Areola because obviously every week that Areola doesn't play, he's going to lose some value, isn't he? We'd suggested around about sort of game week 6, 7, I think, that he was in contention of like the 4.5 goalkeepers. So there will be a group of people that have had him. Defensively, I like that you've got Colwell. I like that you've got Anderson. There are two players that I'm really looking at the longer term here. I think there's every chance I'm going to buy Joachim Anderson this week. One is cover for now. Also, it's thinking longer term about there's a kind of a switch with Wolves' fixtures and Fulham's fixtures where I could see me going Ait Norrie to Anderson in 20. Under this route, I could just keep the value I've got in Ait Norrie and just leave him there
So
and not worry about it.
the reason I've got him is they've obviously got some tough fixtures coming up, but with Colwill and but between my five defenders, the rotation works out nicely where I don't really have to play Anderson in those tough ones. So
Yeah.
would it work out similar for you if you got him?
So I think, yeah, I mean, like if I got Anderson, I'd start him in 12, probably. Then there's not many up to Christmas where I would. There is a fixture they've got Southampton at home where I would. Then they've got a really good run going into the new year. I just think at 4.3, he's definitely worth paying zero point 0.2 more for over, say, Vandenberg, who's a little bit in jeopardy maybe now at Brentford, and they're never keeping clean sheets anyway. Fulham, as discussed yesterday, should be second on expected points. I saw XG Philosophy tweeted that yesterday as well, and I don't
Are
know if
they
they use,
listeners of the pod?
could be.
Unbelievable.
I don't know if they're using the similar data to understart or whatever. I don't know. The two problems you might have here defensively are your higher ticket ones. So Dallo, you've obviously been really unlucky with at the weekend, going off on 57 minutes. But we don't know what happens next.
Yeah,
So you have to
exactly.
have, I'm not saying move that, but you need to obviously have an awareness of it. Next two, you clearly want to play him.
Yep.
Afterwards, bit of a concern. Pedro Porro is not worth having.
Yeah, I think so. My route to Gabriel would
That's a route to
probably,
money for you.
yeah. And if I was to go to Gabriel, it would be Porro. I don't have enough money to go directly, so I'd probably look in my team. Who else can I take out to get some money out of Solanke? Probably.
So this is the what have you got in the bank?
Zero point 0.4.
Okay, zero point 0.4. So effectively not a lot. Right. So your midfield four, Salah, Saka, Bumo, Palmer, kind of like the dream, basically. I get it. And you'll have, I'm going to guess, good value in Bumo. Bought at,
Yeah, I bought him early. Bear
okay,
with
fine.
me.
If it's early, you'll have good value in him. I'd see a growing trend of people discussing what I've been discussing for a number of weeks, obviously selling him in game week 14, where the swing of fixtures is pretty bad for them. And his underlying has, I don't say nosedived recently, but it's calming down. He's potentially expendable for you further down the line. The danger of having this group right now was, unless one of them's injured, you ain't never using any of them for to find you money.
Uh-huh.
Bumo, you might in game week 14, but it might then cut you off of other players around that value who don't look interesting now, but might do. Your Bowens, your Jotters, for example. Um, and you can't really get to your Watkins and stuff here if you deemed that you did want to. Like Watkins might be the best captaincy in game week 15, particularly if he has a rest in game week 14. You are going to struggle. to get there. You in game week 14 to doing that now or towards 15 would have to be going down from Bumo and then up from Solanke.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't look too far ahead to be honest, because I think there's always something that kind of forces something else in the sense of like an injury or a suspension. And that's why I always try to plan like 2, 3 weeks ahead and then just remain flexible and open to things. And that's generally what works best for me. I used to try and plan 6, 7 weeks ahead, but it doesn't suit me.
Okay. Cunha, you've invested in, and I don't see that changing. It's absolutely fine for a number of weeks. Solanke, Tottenham's fixtures are getting tougher. And there are other players at similar value who have got better runs of fixtures. I think that's fairly clear. Not that you have to sell him. It'd be consistent. I've discussed this. Raul Jimenez, I look at and think you're going to want to go to a Brighton attacker in game week 13.
Yeah, and that's why I can go to João Pedro fairly easily.
Or Welbeck.
Oh, Welbeck.
A lot of people fed back yesterday. What are you talking about Danny Welbeck for? Yeah, João
Yeah,
Pedro's cheaper.
I'm guilty of that to be honest. I don't know why.
Um,
Like Danny Welbeck just isn't in my headspace as an option, despite him being a very credible
we
option.
coming into congested fixture list, and that maybe is a concern a little bit with Welbeck. It's not that João Pedro won't get rotated either, by the way. I just think it's the João Pedro at 5.4 idea, which will soon become 5.5. I think for you with Jimenez, Fulham got great fixture this week. You won't want to move that. The following week, it's up to Tottenham, but actually the fixtures do get tougher. You probably are going to want to look at Jimenez to João Pedro, I think, in game
Yeah,
week 13.
that's
It's
one
going
I'm
to be a
looking at.
difficult one to resist, I think. That doesn't find you any money. Ways for you to find money now is you mentioned Arsenal. But what's your take on the forwards at higher price than Solanke, like Isak and Jackson at the moment?
Yeah, like I'd like to get Isaac, but this is where I'm very good at making peace with the statement and hypothesis. You can't have them all. So like as long as I've got 15 players in my team that I believe will score points, I'm chill. Like, yeah, sure, I'd love to get to Isaac, I'd love to get to Watkins, but as long as I've got three strikers that I believe in certain periods will get me points, I don't care about like I don't look at effective ownership and stuff like that. It just doesn't bother me. I have enough faith in like my decision making over a consistent period of time to just get points. So yeah, I'd like to get them. To be honest, my thoughts on if I'm not going to roll this week were potentially looking at moving Garnacho up to Bruno Fernandes and doing that would downgrade Solanke to João Pedro now. Like I'm this is why I'm not going to do it. It's just options. Yeah, the other is like I said, roll go with Jimenez to João Pedro next week. But I like my team. I'm
Okay,
not.
that's fine. And
Yeah,
that's the most important. If you're happy, then you crack on, mate, if you want to roll. I think things I'd be looking at here is with the front three you've got and the midfield four, I don't see there's many weeks you'd actually pay for Garnacho.
I'd
As in
what? Sorry,
play him.
play him.
Sorry, play him, yeah.
Yeah,
You
yeah. That's
probably would pick him over Jimenez in 13. But if you go Jimenez to João Pedro in 13, you ain't benching him. You ain't benching Cunha. And actually, Solanke home fixture against Fulham, you ain't benching. The midfield four certainly ain't getting benched in that game week, right? So then you've got Garnacho at home to Everton. He's still sitting on the bench for you.
yeah. And again, I like that. Like what Sudge always says, right? It's kind of encouraging. I think when your bench is getting points, so like you never know when someone misses out. So I prefer to have that kind of headache, to be honest.
But you could drop Garnacho to Semenyo, Rogers, anything like that. And I realize you've still got the same kind of headache, but you've got nice cover for the rotation period. And then you can get Pedro to Gabriel.
Yeah,
Or similarly, you can downgrade Garnacho in the same way and go Solanke up to Isak. If you downgrade enough, you can think like Solanke to Isak, Porro to Gabriel.
yeah, and get both. That's the two ideal ones.
Yeah. Not must-haves, Clates. I
No, no,
won't
but
have it, but I
out of
think
all of the plans, they're the two that I'd love to get to.
with the two free transfers you've got, like I'm probably taking a -4 to put Isak in this week, probably. I could do it for free now, Solanke to Isak. But I don't really want to be buying him before he plays for Sweden, quite frankly. You can get Isak or Gabriel in with free transfers here. You could get both in with a -4.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do a -4. I just think like there's always the ideal team, but you don't always have to have the ideal team. Like there's yeah, other
No,
players that can
no, you don't, mate. You don't have to do anything. I think if I was looking at that, I'd be thinking I'd generally be considering that as a -4. Bin the two Tottenham players and Garnacho, restructure.
See, I'm not there at all. Like, would it surprise me if Solanke went and got a couple against City? Absolutely not.
Yes, it would surprise me.
Okay, fair enough.
So I think he'll get a trick.
Fucking hell.
I obviously don't. Can people not take that out of context? No, actually, I think I was really concerned when you wildcarded. I think the fact that you got that midfield four has given you the platform to look at the other things. And I quite like that. I think there's a Boomer decision to make in a few weeks. I think you are inevitably going to want to look at a Brighton attacker in game week 13. The biggest concern, two concerns for me would be no Arsenal defence.
Yep.
And the fact that where you are at the moment, you are going to struggle if you want to get to Isak or even worse, Watkins.
Yep.
But that's a personal take.
No, I agree. They're the two kind of in my headspace, but I'll deal with it when I deal with it, I think is my kind of very
Do, do,
nonchalant way of
do, you-
thinking.
do you see yourself moving Boomo on? Not now, but in a couple of weeks.
It depends on this is where I just don't get wedded to ideas, to be honest. Like, it depends on what the circumstances are when I get there. Like, in an ideal world, if everything else is going all right, then yeah, sure. When it gets there. But I'm so yeah, I don't get too wedded to ideas in this game. I try to look at the immediate 2, 3 weeks coming up, and then that's it.
Okay, Matt. Let's move on. Clates, can you talk to us about the night you met the young lady Wilhelmina?
What a player. So Feyenoord,
Was
yes.
she?
Feyenoord, what an interesting case study. Again, another team where kind of heard of them, know they're a famous club in the Netherlands, in Holland, but didn't really know much about their history until I started researching. So, Wilhelmina, yes, as you say. So that's who the team were founded as in 1908, and they were founded in a pub, very nicely. I can't pronounce the name of the pub, but yeah, they were founded in a
You're
pub.
not going
But
to
they
give
actually,
your best Dutch accent, no?
should I try it? Should I try it?
No, no, don't. You
Okay.
might be getting cancelled quickly.
But yeah, so they were founded in 1908, but then between 1908 to 1912, they changed a lot. So they played initially in blue-sleeved red shirts, white shorts, but then they changed everything from their name to their colors. They became a different club name in 1909. They changed to another one, which was called RVV Celeritas. And then eventually in 1912, this is where Feyenoord first came in. They were renamed to SC Feyenoord is how it's spelt. I'm not sure if it's pronounced that correct way.
I
But
think
then,
it's pronounced Feyenoord.
no, I don't know, but it's spelt differently.
Yeah, but this is why later on they changed the name to have it with a Y because people couldn't pronounce the IJ. So people outside the Netherlands couldn't pronounce. They were like, "Where is it, Feyenoord?" So that's why I think.
Ah, that's why they
So
changed it.
the name of the place isn't Feyenoord with a Y; it's IJ. But they
Ah,
changed it to help the brand globally.
sure. Okay, interesting. So yeah, that's how they eventually became Feyenoord. And yeah, one of the most successful clubs in Dutch football. Their strongest period came in the 60s and 70s. And I think you're going to have a little bit to say on that. But yeah, they've won 16 Dutch football championships, 14 cups, 5 Johan Cruyff shields. They've won the European Cup. So yeah, that's cool. And they've won 2 UEFA Cups and an Intercontinental Cup. Sorry, they've been in the same stadium for years, literally since I think 1937. They've been in the same stadium, which I think is quite unusual in this day and age because it is a stadium that is over 50,000 capacity. It's around 51,000, and
Yeah.
to be in that same stadium since the 1930s, I think that's quite unusual in this day and age. Um, what else on them? So Arne Slot obviously has just come from there. So he, as most people know, I'm retraining as a sports psychologist, so I was kind of aware of this anyway. They had a very big connection in sports psychology in Feyenoord, and I don't know if Slots brought this over to Liverpool, but yeah, they had a lot of success under him over there. They, in 2017, I think it was, they ended like an 18-year drought in terms of not winning the league title. And yeah, went and done that in the Dutch league.
So that was an 18-year drought.
Oh, 18 years, sorry.
That was their first title win this century.
Yeah, and yeah, so that was great for them because I think that's one where Ajax and PSV are the two teams that people would typically associate with being the kind of big clubs in the Netherlands
Your
and the most
era,
successful.
yes,
That's the
yeah,
key
but
word in
not
my
of
era,
people
yeah.
older.
Yeah, and that's where kind of touching on that kind of golden era of the 60s and 70s. Yeah, their first championship came in 1961. They beat Ajax on the road to do that. And yeah, I've completely lost my notes on this section now. But yeah, it was the 60s and 70s where they had their most successful period. And they participated in the 69-70 European Cup. They beat a team who I definitely can't pronounce because they're an Icelandic football team, but they beat
Oh,
them.
please do. I
No,
saw this name as well.
yeah.
Give it a
No,
whirl,
I
mate.
I can't do that. I can't do that. Um, yeah, but then they kind of went through that golden period, but then they kind of fell off a little bit because I think they had financial struggles and everything like that. And then yeah, they kind of picked up again in the 90s, and that's where they kind of started to build a bit of a platform and go on to being more consistent. But like you said, it was a long trophy drought going from a period of success to not winning their league title for 18 years, and then in 2017 they went and done it. You said to me there's a little bit of a rivalry between Tottenham and Feyenoord.
I
Why
mean,
is that?
it's not just my opinion, mate. It's actually on Feyenoord's Wikipedia page that they have a rivalry with Tottenham
Yeah,
Hotspur.
but why is there a rivalry between Tottenham and Feyenoord?
First, just to add something on the stadium, the Kuyp, which many big games have been held at. People might remember David Trezeguet's goal in Euro, the silver goal, I think, or golden goal at the time. In the Euro 2000 final, that was there. That stadium was chosen to host the final rather than the Amsterdam Arena. I've been there, the Amsterdam Arena. I don't know if I ever told you about that.
No, never mentioned it.
I haven't been to the Kuyp. I nearly did, and there's part of the story with that. The Kuyp, what that means is the tub. It's a nickname. That's the tub. If you're ever a Feyenoord fan, I'm going to the tub. They're going to the stadium. There have been several talks over the last 2 decades of building a new stadium. It's always been deemed as not cost effective, but they've even talked about going like 90,000. So like massive. They're possibly looking at something now that's more realistic in sort of the 60 to 65 bracket. I say more realistic, I think, from a price perspective, rather than trying to build a 90,000 seat stadium. Not that 60,000 be cheap, but the every time they try and put plans forward for the new stadium, the fans tend to kind of veto it. They're like, we just want to stay. There's some talk now about lifting the roof and putting another tier over the top of all of it currently as it is and staying within where they are. They're deeming that as potentially more cost effective. Essentially, they want to expand the ground. It's a very, very well supported football
Yeah,
club.
very like family orientated fan base is the vibe I got. Is that incorrect? That's everything I was reading about them. That's the vibe it was
I
giving off.
imagine I imagine that's correct. However, when you watch a Champions League game in Rotterdam, I often speak about this. Away fans are treated overseas, right? And you've got the netting in front of you, right? Well, finals got netting all around the ground.
All round it.
Yeah,
Now
the only reason it's not on the near side is because it would block the view of the camera a bit, so they can't have it on the near side. Playing Europe, yeah, you've got netting around three sides of the ground, mate.
oh wow. Yeah, and I had
Like,
that when I went to PSV, but I can't remember if it was all around the ground or just in the away end.
make of that what you will. Anyway, you are right. If you read up on Feyenoord, you will hear about this family orientated club. I would suggest to you they also have a massive reputation of hooliganism, something that was probably born by a fault of Tottenham.
Go on, tell me.
So Feyenoord's first venture into the European Cup was in the 1960-61 season, and it also happened to be Tottenham's. And the two sides met in European Cup, and Tottenham won 3-1 in Rotterdam, drew 1-1 at home, and went through. Tottenham ended up getting to the semi-finals and lost to Benfica. 13 years later, Tottenham met Feyenoord in the UEFA Cup final in 1974. The first leg was, and this was obviously a two-legged final at the time. Tottenham and Feyenoord drew the first leg 2-2 at White Hart Lane. Final got a late equaliser. So back in those days, the away goals really held importance, right? You really could have games back in those days where you'd lose 2-0 away and then like win 5-0 at home. You wouldn't see that sort of thing so much now. So Feyenoord obviously massive favourites for the return leg. Essentially now a one-off final in Rotterdam in their own stadium. My dad went in
Nice.
1974. It was his first trip to Europe, and it was his only trip to Europe until he went with me and saw Gareth Bale's hat trick in the San Siro, because he left the stadium that night as a very embarrassed 19-year-old who vowed never to watch Tottenham in Europe ever again. In
Okay.
fact, it made him question whether he wanted to support the football club,
Why? What happened?
because it was the first real issue of hooliganism from an English club abroad.
Right.
Tottenham fans smashed the place up, lost 2-0, smashed the place up. Um, I think that there's even legend that Bill Nicholson got on a mic in the stadium as the away manager to try and calm Tottenham fans down. Highly embarrassing. I think some Feyenoord fans thought, I like that.
And that's how they got involved in all of it, I take it.
Fast forward another 9 years, the two clubs met again in the UEFA Cup. And a famous game from Tottenham's perspective, because in the first leg, Tottenham were 4-0 up at half time against a Feyenoord team that included Johan Cruyff, who legend would have it, just couldn't get near Glenn Hoddle that night. Right, and it was obviously Johan Cruyff coming towards the end of his career. I think Cruyff asked for Hoddle's shirt after the game is the legend. Tottenham won the second leg, went through. They then met again in the Cup Winners' Cup quarterfinal in 1992. Now, by this point, I'm going to games. So I would have been 8. And this was my first experience of Tottenham in Europe. So I'm 8 and I'm getting these stories of what happened to my dad 20 years earlier in Rotterdam and stuff like that. Can I just say my dad wasn't smashing the place up, by the way? He said there was people, they were leaning over the edge and just pissing
Bloody hell.
on that final supporters below and stuff like that. So if you wonder why the first couple of rows of tapes off, there's a good reason for you as well. Anyway, I remember this really kind of classic tussle between a centre half they had called the Wolf. I think it was John the Wolf, and he looked like a wolf as well. He had the long hair and a bit. And this geezer just man marked Gary Lineker. I'm sure Gary Lineker went for a shit after the game, and the Wolf was still there alongside him. It was a proper man-to-man job. They got a 0-0 at our place, and they beat us 1-0 in Rotterdam in the second leg. We haven't played them since, but we were meant to. In 2007, we drew them in the last 32 of the UEFA Cup, and I was going to go. My dad was not, but I was going to go. And at that time, I'd never seen Tottenham play in Europe. I was going to go with a mate. We were going to go on a boat to Rotterdam, which I think's possibly the biggest port in Europe, actually.
Okay.
I'm going to go on the boat to Feyenoord. I was so excited about it. It just felt like full circle. All the stories my dad had told me, he was never going to go again. That was his only European game was in Feyenoord, and this was going to be my first. It just felt like it was on. The game never happened.
Yeah, why didn't it happen?
They got thrown out. We got given a bye because they caused so much trouble in their last game in Nancy in France.
Oh,
The
wow.
hooliganism was so bad, they got thrown out. So the game never happened. We got a bye. And my first European trip was in Prague the following season.
Ah,
I'd love to go there.
yeah.
But would it be on your toes? Yeah, massively. I think anything that Feyenoord have hooliganism wise is part born out from that night against Tottenham. Has been partly responsible for it.
Do you know, are they
And
still known for that kind of rep?
yeah, I
Like when
think
it,
so. I
yeah.
think so. There is, and that's not to say Feyenoord aren't a family club and 95% of their supporters are great, etc., etc. But I think there is a hooliganism nature about them and actually the other top Dutch clubs as well, where their crowds will take their own little pride in that, I think. So I'd love to go there. It would be quite historic, actually. But it would be on your toes. I don't know if my dad would go.
No.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, that must have been a unique experience for him. Yeah, 19, that's your first European experience. It's, yeah, I can
And
understand why
ruined.
yeah, ruined, yeah.
Yeah. Shame. Good football club, traditional. You said you kind of think like PSV, Ajax, etc., etc. But for people my age and obviously my dad, there's as much Feyenoord as Ajax. PSV is more of a newer one. I think probably from the 1990s onwards. Won the European Cup against Celtic 1970. Obviously won the UEFA Cup against us in 1974. Wasn't the only time they won the UEFA Cup in their own stadium. Also won it against Borussia Dortmund in 2002. And that was in their own stadium. That's just
Yeah,
where the final had to be played. They beat Dortmund
that must have
3-2.
been unreal.
Pierre Van Hooijdonk was the star. And something else also happened that night, Clayton, that Feyenoord won the UEFA Cup. I'll tell you, it's a nice way to finish.
Oh, was it something to do with on this day?
Sylvain Wiltord scored the only goal when Arsenal won at Manchester United and clinched the Premier League title. It
Oh,
was the
no
same night.
way. 2002.
I know that because I was out in the pub. We knew Arsenal would win anyway, and taped Feyenoord and Dortmund because I wanted to watch it and watched it the next morning. And I can tell you it was a lot easier to avoid scores in 2002 than it is in 2024. On this day does feature Arsenal, but not from that year, 2 years
Oh,
later.
so
In
before you do that, the last one you did was the 8-2 against Man United that involved Arsenal. Please tell me this is a positive one.
This is from 2004
Okay.
when Tottenham scored four.
The 4-4?
Arsenal scored five.
5-4. I don't remember that one.
That's interesting because when people think about classic games, this 5-4 for Arsenal doesn't get mentioned as much.
Why is that, do you think?
One, I don't think it was actually a classic. It wasn't the sort of game that was like a 5-4 game. A few years later, you had the 4-4 at the Emirates, which obviously the way it finished was incredibly dramatic. You should have got about 8 that night. God knows how you didn't win. And obviously, in the same year in '04, you had clinched the title at our place with the 2-2 draw. This is from the same year. It's still 2004. It's the next meeting. And yet, the 2-2 is obviously remembered, and I guess even more fondly from Arsenal fans. And I understand the reason why. The 5-4 doesn't get spoken
Yeah,
about
mate,
much.
I couldn't tell you anything about this 5-4 one.
The game took on a pattern that it often did when we met each other over that period because you were significantly better by a long way. But every time you came to our place, we were all over you in the first half, always. And then we'd either go in front and you'd pull it back, or we wouldn't go in front and we'd get done over because the quality would tell the longer the game went on. But yeah, there was we went 10 years without beating you from late 99 till April 2010. A long period. This is obviously in the middle of that. But in the majority of the home games, we dominated you in the first half. In nearly all of them, and didn't win any of them. And it was a familiar theme. And this was like that. We were by a mile the better side in the first half of this game. Finally taking the lead for a goal from Noureddine Naibet about 10 minutes before half time. Set piece delivery from the left. A few people missed it. Naibet got in at the back post. Left footer in. Limbs, obviously. And we should have gone 2-0 up before half time. Into injury time. And I'm not joking. I think it might have been your first shot. If not, it was like your first shot on target. Henry receives a ball. I think Ledley King and Naibet were around him, but he managed to control it off his thigh and just get a shot away. And it's such an ugly goal. So he scored right on half time. Bastards. Henry. He wasn't bad, you know, Clates. So typical theme. I remember there was 2 years earlier, 0203 season, where we were even worse then than we were at this point. Same thing, all over you first half. You got a penalty, which was a definite penalty, just before half time. The game finished 1-1. We've been the better side. So you go in half time, you're disappointed, but like obviously really pleased with the way we play. Yeah, second half starts and Arsenal realise what's going on here. So win a penalty after an awkward mix-up where we give the ball away defensively. And all these great players you've got to take a penalty. Who took it, Clates?
Lauren, I
Yes.
think. Would it have
Yes,
been him?
It
Yeah.
was Lauren, yeah. Took the penalty, not Henri or Bergkamp or Perez. No, Lauren took the penalty.
He was good at penalties.
Scored. He was a good penalty. In fact, it wasn't his only penalty scored in the North London derby. He also scored
Yeah,
one in
took
the
a
01-02 season. And then Patrick Vieira scored not long afterwards. Dispossessed the ball from Michael Brown in midfield. And there's a little bit of hesitancy in our back line, which includes from Ledley King, actually. And Vieira just burst through one-on-one. Wraps it, gives the keeper the eyes, wraps it in top corner. It said it's gone from we've been the better side. We're now 15 minutes into the second half, 3-1. You think, please don't embarrass us badly. Minute later, Jermaine Defoe scores the best goal of the game. A disgusting goal. I think it was in the nominations for goal of the season, actually. We'd picked the ball up in the left touchline and he just beat about 2-3. Not by doing a lot, but just like a little close control. You know how he was. Really close control. and he gets the ball and kind of the angle, not too dissimilar to the Harry Kane mask goal, but not that wide, but kind of from the corner of the
Sure.
penalty area. And he licks this shot, mate.
Top
And I can only
bins.
describe it as licks it. That's what the kids would do. He licks this shot and it like clips the bar and just whaps down into like the corner of the net. Beautiful goal. So back to 3-2. Game on. Arsenal go up the other end of the pitch. Fabregas, who I was either 16 or 17 at this point, like absurd, manages to play this nice pass out to Lundberg, beats Paul Robinson at the near post. 4 minutes later, back up the other end, Ledley King scores from a set piece. It's now 4-3. Back up the other end, Perez, similar goal to Lundberg's, beats Robinson on the near post. 5-3. Must be done. 2 minutes to go. Henri gives the ball away because he was a bit shit. It was a bit underrated. Henri gives the ball away to Reto Ziegler, who played left midfield for us.
Chapman legend he was.
Flipped a nice ball over the top. Freddie Canute slid in and scored 5-4. 2 minutes to go. Tottenham react by taking off Robbie Keane and bringing on Anthony Gardner. Yes, you read that right. So he could just launch the ball up front to him, basically, and hope the foe would get on the end of the flick-ons. Simon Davis had a shot from the edge of the area that could have made it 5-5, but wasn't a big chance. That's as close as it came. My memory of that was the final whistle,
Okay.
because ultimately you've lost the derby.
Yeah.
You're never happy. But it's the only time I've been at the derby where obviously everyone clapped when the game finished.
Oh, really?
Because yeah, everyone. It was no booing or anything like that. I think even now it'd probably be booing because it'd be more intense. But that then you have to remember there was a huge disparity in the quality between the two teams. Martin Jol had just taken over from Jack Santini. I think it was his second game, and would go on and have a really good spell where Tottenham had been quite boring. And Martin Jol managed to kind of be the start of Tottenham playing attractive football. And he would get us very close to European qualification this year. The following year, we finished fifth with the Lasagna Gate. So from this period, remember, you'd been invincible the year before. This was about 3 games after you'd lost at Manchester United.
Right.
So it was like, I don't know, 1 defeat in 55 or something like that. So the disparity in quality between the two teams was clear. We had some good attacking players. Ledley King was developing. We had Defoe, Keane, but I mean, the Arsenal team, joke. We were a little bit vulnerable defensively because he who shall not be named didn't play. I guess he was a bit scared that day. Pascal Sigon played at centre back, who was indifferent, let's say.
Yeah. He had a screw loose, he did.
And that's probably why you conceded 4 that day.
It's so interesting. Like obviously I was quite young during that period, so I only remember through highlights I've seen and stuff, and like I can remember that 4-4 you kind of referenced at the Emirates. I remember the 2-2 obviously the season before, but this one I've got no recollection on any of these goals, even as you're describing them. So it's one of them. I'm gonna have to watch the highlights and see if that rejigs anything in my brain.
We'll put a link into the bio. But yeah, that's what I remember most of the game is everyone clapping at the end and not knowing if that was right.
I think you'd still get that now, just in the way you
Maybe.
described
I
the
think it was
nature
the
of the
fact that
game.
we played really well in the first half. And then obviously every time we went 2 goals behind, we never give up, right?
Yeah.
We kept trying. 3-2, 4-3, 5-4. We kept trying and we could have got slapped. So there's probably a little bit of pride in that. It wasn't embarrassing at the end. And obviously it was a great football match. I think from memory, and I don't know if this is right, but I don't think it was televised.
Oh.
Despite the fact it was an early kickoff. I
And a
definitely
North
know it
London
was an
derby.
early kickoff. And I tell you why I know it was an early kickoff, because it is the closest I ever come to missing the Tottenham game.
Oh dear.
I was working in a pub in Hertford at the time and woke up and it was 5-11.
How
And,
drunk
and
were you?
kickoff was 12. Yeah, I probably was a bit hungover from the night before. Yeah, I was like 19 or something. I don't know, 19, 20. And panicked. I obviously didn't fucking shower or nothing. I just put some clothes on, ran out the house, got on the train, got to White Hart Lane about 10 minutes before kickoff.
Oh wow. Yeah, no, there's no way you were missing that one. But the closest you
If I'd
got.
have slept any more, I would have, mate. It was the closest I've ever been to missing one.
Your Tottenham alarm was on internally.
Uh, Probably, yeah. I probably maybe should have stayed in bed. But I think it's not remembered as a classic. So I don't think it was on the TV. I think
Right.
it was a 12 o'clock on like police advice. I'm pretty sure Southampton Portsmouth was the early kickoff on TV that day, which I think Southampton won. I think Harry Redknapp might have even been Southampton manager weirdly at the time,
Oh, okay.
possibly. So yeah, that's on this day from
Oh,
2004.
nice one. Lovely
Hey,
stuff.
Clates, more
Cheers.
Arsenal tomorrow on Clash of the Correspondents. Adam Pritchard and Mark Sutherns will be joining me for Arsenal versus Nottingham Forest. Clates and I will be back next Wednesday where we will feature discussion on our excitement watching England over the next week. Clates, anything for the people?
No, thanks as always. Stay safe. Ciao for now.
Be nice to each other, everyone. Cue music, please, man child.